Aquinas begins showing that God's existence can be proved by reason, apart from Scripture, by offering what he considers the most obvious argument.
The first and more manifest way is the argument from motion. It is certain and evident to our senses that in the world some things are in motion.
For Aquinas, motion means more than just a change of location. His example of fire heating wood indicates the sort of motion or change he has in mind. Motion includes the change of any characteristic of a thing, being heated or cooled, changing size or shape or color, as well as change of location. Next, Aquinas explains how such motion or change comes about.
Now, whatever is in motion is put in motion by another.
Aquinas is here making two important points about every process of change. One, each one has a cause, and two, the cause is something other than what is changing. Points need to be demonstrated, which he does in terms of Aristotle's notions of potency and act. Aquinas explains that a changing thing is in the process of having its potency actualized, and it is being actualized by an external cause, which is itself actual.
For nothing can be in motion except it is in potentiality to that towards which it is in motion, whereas a thing moves inasmuch as it is in act. For motion is nothing else than the reduction of something from potentiality to actuality. But nothing can be reduced from potentiality to actuality except by something in a state of actuality. Thus, that which is actually hot, as fire, makes wood, which is potentially hot, to be actually hot, and thereby moves and changes it.
Wood catches fire only as potentially aflame. Actually burning wood does not catch fire or undergo the motion of ignition. For Aquinas, this means that the cause of any change must be something other than what is changing, yet the cause is active as long as the change is happening.
Now, it is not possible that the same thing should be at once in actuality and potentiality in the same respect, but only in different respects. For what is actually hot cannot simultaneously be potentially hot, but it is simultaneously potentially cold. It is therefore impossible that in the same respect and in the same way a thing should be both mover and moved, that is, it should move itself. Therefore, whatever is in motion must be put in motion by another.
The change that a thing undergoes cannot be the cause of that very same process of change. A burning candle does not set itself on fire. Anything that is changing is being made to change by some other actuating cause. Aquinas does not require, though, that the actuating cause be a motion of the same sort, or a motion at all, as some mistakenly think. For instance, the cause of heat may be hot, fire igniting wood, but it may also have some other actuality that brings about heat as an effect, friction igniting wood. But sometimes the prior actuality is not a motion or process of change at all, but an actuality of a different sort, as in the case of animal motion. This kind of causal activity is the subject of Aquinas' second way. In this first way, Aquinas continues by considering only the case when the prior actuality causing motion is itself a motion or process of change.
If that by which it is put in motion be itself put in motion, then this also must needs be put in motion by another, and that by another again.
Now, even when the prior actuality is itself a process of change, that is, a motion, this may be prior in time, for example, when a moving billiard ball causes another one to move. But in this first way, Aquinas is not simply tracing motion back temporally to an initial motion from which all others followed in sequence. For one thing, he did not think it could be demonstrated from philosophy or science that the present state of the world followed from a temporally first motion. Secondly, from his example of a hand moving a stick, we know that the causal series he has in mind is not a temporal succession. Rather, he is looking at moving causes which act simultaneously, the process of change they bring about. He calls these causes which act simultaneously per se causes, and says their effects are essentially subordinated, not temporally successive. Other examples of essentially subordinated series of causes would include a series of interlocking cogs, or a train of cars, any system of simultaneous transfer of motion with net energy output. Furthermore, Aquinas treats every motion of the world as part of the motion of the whole world, and together they depend on a single universal moving cause. Aquinas accepted Aristotle's astronomical and cosmological model of the physical universe that was current in his day. This geocentric model saw the earth as the motionless center of the physical universe, with the celestial lights, the moon, sun, planets, and stars affixed to great transparent spheres which ceaselessly rotate around the earth in uniform circular motion. This complex scheme explained and predicted the apparent rising and setting of the sun and moon, the variable motions of the planets, and the eternal cycle of the stars. With this model of the physical universe, Aquinas viewed the whole cosmos as a system of per se causes being driven by the motion of the spheres. It is implicit in the first way, and explicit elsewhere in Aquinas' writings, that the heavenly spheres are per se causes of motion of the whole world, causes which act simultaneously with the motions or changes they bring about. Thus, the motion of the whole world, and each motion within it, are essentially subordinated to, and simultaneously caused by, the motion of the heavens. Continuing from his first way.
But this cannot go on to infinity, because then there would be no first mover, and consequently no other mover, seeing that subsequent movers move only inasmuch as they are put in motion by the first mover, as the staff moves only because it is put in motion by the hand.
Now at this point, Aquinas is not describing the motion of the whole universe, but the general properties of any series of per se causes of motion. His mention of a first mover, then, is not a reference to God. Indeed, he is talking about any system of effects essentially subordinated to simultaneously acting causes. Whenever we know that effects are the result of the simultaneous motion of prior causes, which are themselves effects of prior moving causes, there must be something driving the motion of the system. For example, a series of cogs or train cars, which is transferring motion, cannot be infinitely long, for there would be no motion or energy to transfer without a first cause and source of the motion supposedly being transferred. So Aquinas is arguing that A, if the universe is an essentially subordinated system of causes, and B, if no essentially subordinated series of causes can be infinitely long, then C, there cannot be an infinite number of spheres driving the ultimate motion of the earth. Instead, he concludes,
therefore it is necessary to arrive at a first mover, put in motion by no other.
It should be noted that while the first mover is actual, it is not so with the actuality of motion, change, since everything in motion would require a cause for that change. Thus, a moving first cause could not be first. From the fact that it is in motion, it would itself require a mover. Moreover, if all physical beings are subject to motion and change, the first mover is not changing, and so is not physical, but nevertheless active with a non-physical actuality. We can now summarize Aquinas' argument in the first way. Things are changing or moving. Every change is caused by the simultaneous activity of something else. Nothing is the cause of its own process of change, and so the change of the world as a whole is caused by something other than the world, the spheres or the heavens. If the activity of the cause is itself a change or motion, it is in the case of the spheres, then this per se effect must be caused by another prior simultaneous cause. In a change of per se or essentially subordinated causes, there would be no last effect, which there is, if something were not driving the whole chain as first cause. Since there must be a first initiator of motion in essentially subordinated causes, the chain cannot be infinite. Therefore, there must be a first mover of the whole universe, which acts and causes change, but whose causing activity is not a change or motion. Thus, having established the reality of something, the non-physical, non-moving, but actual and active cause of motion, Aquinas identifies it according to what he already knows as a Christian.
And this everyone understands to be God.